This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. You guys can talk for now, I still have to go to the entrance to welcome the guests, Yang Ping said with a smile. He arranged Li Feiyu and the Calabash Little King Kong to sit in 2 seats, while Yunxiao stood behind the Calabash Little King Kong, his eyes scanning the field, intentionally or otherwise. The 2 of you are actually from the Island of Freedom in the North Sea? How is Island Lord Hong? The gourd Little King Kong suddenly said in a heavy and deep voice. Naturally, it was Yunxiao's divine will that controlled him to speak. This friend, do you know our island master? The fiery red man was Bai Tan from Freedom Island, and the other one who cultivated a water-type cultivation technique was Ing Bo. Both of them had looks of disbelief on their faces. He stared at the gourd Little King Kong for a while. His eyes flickered with golden light and 5 colors. It was obviously a kind of eye technique. Yunxiao's expression remained unchanged. He hid his right hand behind the gourd warrior and performed a strange incantation gesture. Immediately, a spiritual barrier enveloped him and the gourd warrior, blocking the other party's prying technique. Bai Tan stared at it for a while, and a trace of surprise flashed through his eyes. He seemed to have guessed something and nodded, I see. What do you mean by, so that's how it is? Did you see any clues? Ing Bo asked in a strange tone. This friend is unwilling to show his true face, Bai Tan said. He must have his own difficulties. I can't point it out. Sir Bai Tan, since you've seen through it, just tell us. Let us know who this strange man who came with young Master Li is. Xiao Bai, the man in linen clothes, asked. He had nothing to say about Li Feiyu's identity, but he still found the appearance of the Calabash Little Vidra very unpleasant to the eye. The weirdly dressed revered martial artist, Lu Feng, who was beside him, also shouted, yes, yes. The 2 of them seemed to have a very good relationship and had similar tempers. Bai Tan wasn't moved by his words and said, please respect the privacy of others. This made Xiao Bai and Lu Feng feel like they were asking for a rebuff. They both snorted and no longer spoke. But, his eyes were full of hostility when he looked at the Calabash Little King Kong, and he even looked at Yunxiao with cold killing intent. Naturally, Yunxiao would not pay any attention to these 2 idiots. Their arrogance and disregard, and even the way they looked at him as if he were looking at a fool, made their faces turn livid with anger. Li Feiyu, on the other hand, felt very strange. He naturally knew that the puppet was hidden under the black robe, but he didn't believe that Bai Tan would be able to see through his identity. Lord Bai Tan really saw through my friend's identity? Why don't you tell me? This friend of mine only has a strange temper, there's nothing about him that's shameful. If you can tell him, he might even remove black robe. Bai Tan said, oh? I wonder if that's true. After all, not many people on the heavenly martial continent knew that Yunxiao had mentioned their island master's surname, so he might really be a friend of the island master. The gourd Little King Kong sat there without saying a word. In everyone's eyes, it was a tacit agreement. Bai Tan said, the qi in this friend's body is extremely strange. Sure, Yao, and Sure should be cultivating 2 extremely overbearing cultivation techniques. One of them is the cultivation technique of the demon race. As for the other, it should be an extremely powerful body technique that can make one's body as hard as a diamond and equivalent to a profound weapon. That's why he has such a strange qi. There's also another possibility, and that is that this friend is a member of the demon race. Li Feiyu was extremely surprised when he heard this, and he immediately didn't dare to underestimate Bai Tan. He couldn't see the gourd Little King Kong's true appearance, but he could guess to this extent, which was already very impressive. Besides, this friend's spiritual power is very strong, at least at the level of a 7th-tier great alchemist. Even my spying spiritual eye was blocked by your spiritual power, and I couldn't see anything. Otherwise, I'll definitely get a full view of you and tell you everything. Bai Tan said with a smile. He seemed to be very confident in his guess. The Calabash Little Guardian deity said, Master Bitu is indeed powerful. The strength of the island of freedom in the North Sea is extraordinary. It's far away from the continent, as if it's not in the world, and it's not disturbed by the world. After so many years, its strength has long reached the sky, and I'm afraid that it's no longer under the 7 superpowers of the continent. His words immediately caused everyone's expressions to change. Bitu and Ningbo's faces changed drastically, and they were extremely shocked. "You're overpraising me, friend," Bai Tan said. Freedom Island was far away from the disputes of the secular world and focused on the pursuit of martial Tao. However, it's not as peaceful as you think. There have been several large-scale conflicts between us and the Sea Tribe of the North Sea, and we've suffered heavy losses. It's just that the continent doesn't know about it. He seemed to want to explain that the strength of Freedom Island was not strong, which made everyone even more suspicious. If another faction like the 7 superpowers appeared, it would definitely be a major event that would shock the world. Li Feiyu was also suspicious, and at the same time, he was also very suspicious of Yunxiao's identity. In the information collected by Myriad Treasure's store, Freedom Island was far away in the depths of the North Sea. No one knew its exact location, and it was impossible to reach it without using the teleportation array. However, even if it was a teleportation array, it could only teleport them to the islands in the sea around the Freedom Island. They had to be led by their people to enter the mysterious main island. Any sect on the continent had very little information about the Island of Freedom. Perhaps only the Holy Region could really grasp the movements of the Island of Freedom. Could this kid be from the Saint Realm? Li Feiyu immediately began to speculate about Yunxiao's identity, and the more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. After all, the only ones who knew about Freedom Island and dared to ignore the Miaoxian sect were either the 7 superpowers or the Sacred Zone. After Bai Tan's explanation, Yunxiao did not go into detail, but said, "When will the trading convention start? Could it be that there are other distinguished guests?" "Young Master Yun, you can't wait anymore?" Yang Ping's voice came from outside the door, and there were a few figures following him. It was obvious that they were qualified enough for him to lead the way. Everyone looked over and saw that the person beside Yang Ping was actually a woman in a palace dress. She had a thin veil on her face and her body was light. Although her appearance could not be seen clearly, she gave off the aura of a dignified and elegant lady. Behind him were 4 maidservants, each of them with an extraordinary temperament. Yang Ping smiled and said, "Most of the guests have arrived. If more people come later, we'll just join in. The one I've been waiting for at the door is this lord." He made an inviting gesture and arranged for the lady to sit in an empty seat at the head of the table. Everyone's expression changed slightly. They had thought that the seat was for Yang Ping himself, but they did not expect it to be reserved for this person. Right now, among all the seats, only the highest seat remained, which was also the seat of the city lord of Rain Peak City. Yang Ping himself stood below the city lord's seat and smiled. This lord must be very curious to everyone. He is a special guest specially invited by the city lord. Not only does he participate in the trading of goods, but he is also the person who presides on the pricing. Oh, the person in charge of the pricing? Could it be that this friend is very good at recognizing treasures? Bai Tan asked. Everyone revealed a puzzled expression, suspicious of the identity of the beautiful woman in palace dress. The beautiful woman was sitting there calmly, exuding the aura of a superior and the demeanor of a powerful expert. Suddenly, a hearty laugh was heard. Everyone's vision blurred, and they saw a man sitting on the chair at the head of the table. He wore a blue robe, his eyes were as clear as lake water, and his face was full of smiles. It was the city lord of Yufeng City, Sheng. If there's a treasure in this world that even the head of the Mei family, Aunt Zhou, can't recognize, then there's basically no one else in the world who can. So it's the head of the Mei family. Everyone was stunned, their eyes all falling on the beautiful woman. Could it be the Mei family, who specializes in hosting large-scale auctions and has the best ability to recognize treasures? Bai Tan asked in surprise. The Mei family was very low-key on the continent. Other than the rumor that they had extremely high appraisal power, there were very few other rumors. And the Mei family basically only dealt with the merchant union, and had very little contact with other sects. Yunxiao was also stunned for a moment. It turned out that the Mei family Mei Dong was from was this one. The so-called ninth aunt, the head of the Mei family, was actually this woman in front of him. He couldn't help but feel a little strange. In the many auctions he had experienced, the host was always called Mr. Mei, and they were all men. He didn't know why it was a woman who was in charge. This was extremely rare. I didn't expect to see ninth aunt here. Li Feiyu laughed. The two of them seemed to be old acquaintances. Ninth aunt's cold eyes became warm. She had a good impression of Li Feiyu and said in a soft and moving voice, "After our last meeting, young Master Li's cultivation has improved by quite a bit. When will the title of the four prodigies of the north be first?" "I can't even get first place with my terrible talent," Li Feiyu replied humbly. It was just relying on the myriad treasure tower's name to be forcefully added in by people to make up the numbers. I really don't dare to think about it. Aunt Zhou smiled and did not say anything else. "It's a surprise," Gengxing said with a smile. "It's rare to attract young Master Li. It's a pleasant surprise. Not only would he be able to witness the elegance of the four prodigies of the north, but he would also be able to bring a lot of treasures. But ninth aunt, you're late. This isn't your usual style." Aunt Zhou's eyes flashed with a hint of solemnity. "I was caught up in a sudden matter, so I came late." "Oh, is it convenient for you to tell me what it is?" "As long as I can help, I will do my best." Gengxing also saw the seriousness in Aunt Zhou's eyes. He immediately made a decision to win her favor and make everyone feel that the city lord was indeed a man of great character. "Thank you, City Lord Geng," Aunt Zhou said. "This is an undeserved disaster. The son of the sect master of the Miaoxian sect, Wang De, has died in my family's restaurant." "What? Wang De?" Gengxing was shocked. "Wang De from the Miaoxuan sect? The inter-province transportation formation has been destroyed, and too many warriors have been detained. There have been too many conflicts. However, I didn't expect that the son of the sect master of the Miaoxian sect would die in my Yufeng city. This is indeed a little troublesome. Do you know who did it?" "I don't know for now, but the entire restaurant has been destroyed," Aunt Zhou replied. "I heard that it was done by a young man in his 20s with a martial honor puppet. What worries me more is that after that person killed Wang De, he killed all of Wang Zhen's followers who came to seek revenge. He even went after Wang Zhen." Her eyes revealed a deep sense of worry, as if she did not dare to imagine the outcome. The others were also very serious. Gengxing said in shock, "Who is so bold? If Wang Zhen was also killed, then the Miaoxuan sect would be in deep trouble." His heart was filled with shock, and if Wang Gong lost two sons in pain, his Yufeng city would probably be dragged into the flames of anger as well. Aunt Zhou said, "That's what I'm worried about. I've sent people to investigate the whole city. Although we didn't find the murderer, we've locked onto the murderer's companions. I hope we can get a good result." "Wang De is dead," Gengxing smiled bitterly. "What good outcome can there be?" Wang Gong's anger was inevitable. Even though this son of his was uneducated and incompetent, he still had a precious status. "As the city lord of Yufeng City, I have a certain level of responsibility. I will definitely do my best to assist ninth aunt in investigating this matter." Li Feiyu glanced at Yunxiao with a smile and a strange look in his eyes. On the other hand, Yunxiao's face was cold, and he was a little worried. Just now, Aunt Zhou said that she had found the murderer's companion. She wondered if the murderer had found the Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce. However, with Imo Xiaochuan there, it should not be a big problem. If a martial sovereign attacked him, it would definitely be earth-shattering, and he could feel it from where he was. Now it seemed that things had not happened too intensely, and he would just wait and see. Since it has already happened, there's no point in worrying about it. After the trade fair, I'll send someone to assist ninth aunt. Although the people from the Miaoxian sect are all lecherous and cold, they won't dare to act recklessly in the Great Hall. If worse comes to worst, I'll go to the Holy Region once the transportation formation is repaired and invite the law enforcement officers to take charge." Then, the Miaoxian sect will not dare to be too presumptuous. With Lord Yongping's words, I'm relieved, Aunt Zhou said with a nod. Don't worry, ninth aunt, Li Feiyu replied. My 10,000 treasures tower will definitely support you to the best of our abilities. We will never let the Miaoxian sect act recklessly, and we will also not let the murderer get away with it. Well, I may have to trouble young Master Li with this matter when the time comes. Aunt Zhou was still very confident in the merchant union. After all, they had worked together for so many years, and the favor and interests were still there. The merchant union would certainly not ignore the Miaoxian sect and deal with the Mei family. Don't worry, Myriad Treasure Store and even the merchant union will support ninth aunt unconditionally, Li Feiyu patted his chest and said. His words carried a lot of weight, and Aunt Zhou immediately felt relieved. Yunxiao, on the other hand, was speechless. In his opinion, he had just killed a hooligan, and there was no need for so much trouble. This was also because his vision was too high. In his previous life, not to mention the Miaoxian sect, even Beiming Dark Palace had killed many people, and they were still safe. How could he know the difficulties of these low-level forces? They were all trembling with fear towards those super-large sections. If they did not serve them well, it might be a disaster of extermination. This was the cruel reality of the realm of heavenly martial arts. The strong were respected, and the strong were the law. Those who disobeyed could only die. With young Master Li's words, ninth aunt can be at ease. Let's start our trading now, don't let it affect your mood. Sheng laughed. It's all because the teleportation array was destroyed. You're all stuck here. That's why I'm holding a small event. I've also called Aunt Zhou to host it. If you have any treasures, show them to us so we can all admire them together. Everyone's spirits were lifted. At their level, the treasures they could take out must be extraordinary. Otherwise, they would not take it out so easily to embarrass themselves. Everyone looked around, but no one was willing to be the first to present their treasures. Sheng seemed to have expected this. He smiled and said, since everyone wants to stay until the end, then let me show my incompetence first. He raised his hand, and the light in his ring flickered. A white jade box with a golden dragon carving appeared in his hand, and he opened the lid with a smile. A small piece of gray wood was lying inside. Other than the abundant spiritual qi, there was nothing unusual about it. Everyone carefully opened their eyes, but they still couldn't feel any difference from ordinary branches. Who can see through this thing? I'm willing to offer you 10 million medial-grade primordial stones. Even ninth aunt can participate, Sheng said proudly. To tell the truth, I'm very curious about the Mei family's appraisal technique. If the original owner hadn't told me what this item was, I wouldn't have known even if I racked my brain. City Lord Gung is really rich and generous, Xiao said. He actually dared to use 10 million mid-grade primordial stones to test the ability of the Mei family's first head. I think 10 million is definitely going to be the price. Everyone agreed. The Mei family's appraisal ability was well known, let alone the chief's. If there was something that she couldn't appraise, then no one else could. Aunt Zhou smiled gently, her beautiful eyes moving. Although her face was covered by a light veil, one could still see that she was an absolute beauty. One of her maidservants immediately came forward and brought the white jade box over. Aunt Zhou raised her slender hand and pointed at the small branch with her index finger a few times. She then looked surprised and said, "This thing doesn't have a rank?" What? There's no item of the same rank? Could it be an ordinary branch? What a joke. What kind of person is City Lord Gung? How could he take out an ordinary branch? There are indeed some things in this world that don't have a hierarchy, Bai Tan said in surprise. It's because we can't measure them with the standards of the secular world. All of these items are precious treasures, and City Lord has actually taken out such precious items. I wonder what City Lord would like to exchange for, or to sell them for primordial stones. Let's not talk about this now, Sheng said with a smile. We'll talk about it after we identify what it is. Also, it's not as precious as you think, Master Bai Tan, because there's too little of it. Aunt Jiao moved her fingers away from the branch and said with a smile, I didn't expect it to be this. I already know the answer. Oh. Sheng didn't believe him. Aunt Jiao chuckled and moved her lips slightly. She directly sent a voice transmission to Sheng's ears, but he looked stunned and incredulous. Everyone saw that she had answered. They were all itching to know the answer. The people of the Mei family are indeed disdainful. Sheng shook his head with a bitter smile. He looked helpless and said, my 10 million primeval stones were indeed given away for free. He was about to announce the answer when a calm voice suddenly rang out. It was the calabash little King Kong. Wait, I know what this is too. Please prepare 2 sets of metastones for the city lord. Oh. I don't believe it. Sheng said directly, even ninth aunt only found out after investigating it, but you can tell what it is just by looking at it from a distance. It's too shocking. The gourd little King Kong snorted and said, if I'm not wrong, this should be the soul-raising tree formed from the essence of the Manhwa divine tree. Such pure soul-raising wood is indeed rare, but the only flaw is that there's too little of it. I'm afraid it won't be of much use. Sheng was shocked. He sized up the black robe, trying to look inside, but to no avail. He also knew that every expert had their own habits, and many people had their own eccentricities. Perhaps they liked to cover their faces, so it was not good to force an investigation. He could only smile bitterly and say, I'm really ignorant. The realm of heavenly martial arts is so big that there are indeed many capable people. Everyone was surprised by his words. They all looked at the gourd little King Kong, and their evaluation of him increased. Even his servant, Li Yunxiao, came into everyone's sight. After a quick glance, they all frowned, as if this servant was not a simple man. Li Feiyang was also surprised, and he could not help but be more wary of Yunxiao. Aunt Zhou's beautiful eyes were also fixed on the calabash King Kong a few times, and then on Yunxiao before she retracted them. The gourd little Vajra said, I wonder what city lord Gung wants to exchange for this soul-raising wood? I'm very interested. If it's really not possible, I'm willing to pay you a few more meta stones. Just as young Master Yun said, Sheng said, this soul-nurturing wood is precious, but it's too rare. It's useless for me to keep it. I want to trade it for a golden sun worship. Is there anyone willing to do so? City Lord, aren't you being too greedy? Lu Feng, who was dressed in a strange manner, shouted. To exchange a 7th-grade Golden Sun battleship with this soul-nurturing wood is like exchanging a rock for primeval stones. Sheng didn't mind his collision. He smiled and said, the Golden Sun battleship has a price, but the soul-nurturing wood is priceless. Even though they are rarely used, they are priceless in the hands of those who truly need them. Indeed. It's hard to set a price for this kind of treasure without a grade, Aunt Jiao added. Although it was used very little, the stock in the realm of heavenly martial arts was also astonishingly small. If you meet someone who is in urgent need of it, it's priceless. According to the information I've received, the only Manhwa divine tree in the world has already passed away in the South Sea, Bai Tan suddenly said. The soul-raising tree might not exist in this world anymore. What? Everyone was taken aback. Although many people did not understand the meaning behind it, at least they knew how precious this thing was. It might be a unique existence in the entire heavenly martial realm. Even Sheng had not expected this. After a moment of shock, he shook his head with a bitter smile and said, Master Bitu, why didn't you say so earlier? If you did, I wouldn't have taken it out to trade. It would have been better to keep it as a collection. He beat his chest and stomped his feet in frustration, making everyone suspicious, wondering if the two of them were working together. Even though they knew that the Manhwa divine tree was gone, no one was willing to trade for it with the golden sun worship, because no one needed it. It was the first time many people had even heard of it. I don't have a 7th-grade golden sun worship, the gourd little said. But I have the wreckage of an 8th-grade netherworld worship. I wonder if City Lord Gung is willing to trade. In addition to the 10 million medial grade primordial stones you gave me earlier, this price won't be lower than the golden sun worship.